Debit and less mean the same thing, right? That's all it means. Credit, right? Everybody knows that. Five kinds of accounts. All your stuff, your possessions are called assets. Everything you owe everybody against those possessions, right? That's financed. All your liabilities. And the portion you own, the representation of your wealth, your assets less your liabilities, you know what you have less what you owe against it, is your equity. Okay? Earnings process. As I sell things, earn income, earn revenues, right? What do I have? I generate revenues. Okay, way to give it away. All right. By the way, this is going to be the first question. I'm going to give you points for no. It's like 2 or something. Okay? So this is the complete accounting equation we're doing here. This is the balance sheet, right, guys? If I ask you what's on the balance sheet, would you tell me? Of course. Okay, income statement over here. Got to use something to do this semester. Okay, so revenues less all the costs associated with getting those revenues are called the, and the difference is, okay, because the assets are on the left, the normal balance is, and you increase them with, everybody, what is it? Debit. Can everybody formulate that answer? If you can't, you're screwed. You will flunk the quiz. I'm sorry. If you're not there now, you're done. We're going way beyond that, right? If you look at the quiz, you're going to be able to use this, like automatic, okay, automatic. And if you don't get there, it's just, oh well, that's the one you throw away, okay? Let's not make this one the one you throw away, because this one's an easy one, okay? So take this seriously, all right? Take a look at that quiz and think about, could you do that quiz easily in 40 minutes? Pound through it and have everything right in 40 minutes, okay? That's what I'm going to give you to do it, which is way more time than you need. Half an hour's fun, okay? We're not going to bill $100 an hour for you if you can't do something like that. Got it? Okay? If you want to make $50,000 a year, you got to bill $100 an hour. Okay? All right. Anyway, assets increase with, because they're on the left. Reduce with both liability and equity are on the right. Increase with, reduce with, because revenue and expense are a subset of equity. We're temporarily keeping track of it for 1 year, and then we're going to take what's in net income in revenues and expenses and put it into equity. We'll look at that in chapter 4. Okay? Revenues are a subset of equity, so they act just like equity, huh? So I'm increasing my wealth as I increase my revenues. Everybody agree with that? You have more revenue, you have more wealth. So what must they be? Credits. If I put too much in, how would I fix it? Okay, we're going to use this over and over and over and over. Okay? All right, expenses have to be the opposite, and also what do expenses do to your wealth? Decreases it. So how would you decrease your wealth? With a debit, of course, right? So as I'm increasing the expenses with debits, that is reducing my net income, which is reducing my wealth. Everybody good? That's it. Okay? How do you reduce expenses? Obviously, it's got to be the opposite of the debit. It's a credit, right? Okay, so you always take the difference between debits and credits. Net income must be a what? Debit or a credit? It's not an account. It's just the difference between revenues and expenses. When would you have net income? Yeah, it's common sense. Revenues exceed expenses, right? Okay, your sales exceed your costs? Sure. Okay, so credit is net income. This is easy if you get your head around it. It's impossible if you memorize it. Get to be already. Okay, don't go there. All right? What would a net loss be? A debit. Why? Because the expenses, the debits exceed the revenues, which are credits, and you have a net debit. Okay. All right, you guys have any wealth? Something new now. You guys have any wealth? Do you have more assets than you do liabilities? I do, but not by much. No, you don't. Okay, sure you do. Okay, you have more assets than your liabilities. Think of everything you own, right? Everything. You know, car, clothes, I don't know, video games, whatever you got. Okay, computers. Think of everything you own, everything you've got, right? That's your possession. And then think about how much you own. What's the difference, right? Okay, now you can include your education. Your education is really valuable. Really valuable. It's probably the most valuable asset already. Even if you're a freshman, I bet it is. Unless you have rich parents or rich grandparents that gave you a lot of money. It's really valuable. Really valuable. That's why you're doing this. Okay? Well, a lot of why you're doing this. So, where did your wealth come from? To the extent that you have more assets than your liabilities, how do you get it? I can think of 2 ways. What about you guys? Anybody have any grandparents that love them that ever gave you anything? Yeah. Contributed capital. Parents gave you anything? Contributed capital. Right? Okay? And you still have it. You haven't used it up. If you use it up, if you take an expense. That's the way we look at that. Okay? So yeah, any assets that somebody gave me is contributed capital, huh? The other side's contributed capital. So one source of wealth is contributed capital. Everybody agree with that? You got a picture of what that is? The owners contribute to the business. Okay? It's contributed capital. All right. What else is there? How else did you get your wealth? I can't remember when anybody gave me anything last time, but it's been a long, long time since people gave me things. I give other people things, right? My grandkids. They used to be my kids. I never give my kids anything anymore. I love talking to your parents because they're pointing out to them that you're going to take them to dinner, and in a very short period of time. Like, yeah, right. My kids are never going to take me to dinner. They're never going to be able to support themselves, much less take me to dinner. No. My kids spend far more money on me now than I can. I guess they feel guilty. Well, at least my daughter does, my son. Maybe. Yeah. Well, maybe I'm kidding. But anyway, he's a little cheap. All right. What do you call that if you earn? You work and you earn. Net income, right? Net income or net loss. Okay? And where do we put it if we keep it? Cleverly in an equity account named, because you have more equity, right? If you earn income and you keep it. You know, if you guys earn income and you keep it, are you worth more? Sure. Okay, you have more equity, you have more wealth. Okay, so what do we call this stuff? Because we kept it, we call it earnings we retained. How about retained earnings? Accountants are so clever in how we name things. So this is retained earnings. Two types of equity so far, and really there's only going to be one more, and it's minor. Okay, so we'll do that much later. So we have contributed capital and retained earnings. You add the two together, that's your equity. Got it? And there'll only be a few accounts in those. Right? So far we got contributed capital, be common stock, preferred stock, things like that. But anyway, it's contributed capital, what the owners contributed. Okay? And then retained earnings is what you earned and you kept. But could you earn it and not keep it? Of course, you could pay it out to the, who does it belong to? The owners, the stockholders. So when you pay it out to the stockholders, what do we call that thing? A dividend. Got it. Okay. Now let's think about what happens to retained earnings if I have positive net income. I start with nothing when I start the company. Why did I put that zero on the credit side? I don't know. It's the normal balance of credit. Right? Doesn't matter. Right? It's zero. But got the idea? Normal balance of credit. This would be zero. Okay? So let's run the business a little bit. Let's say the owners invest $100,000 to start the business. It's cash. Give me the journal entry. We did that last time. What do? What did the company receive? Cash, which is a asset, and I have more, so I debit it. That's the thought process, only you don't take anywhere near that much time. I just said, you know, I would, if I was doing it, I'd say, okay, the owners invested $100,000 cash, debit cash, 100. Of course. Got to get to that point, you guys. What do you want to credit? Let's see. The owners contributed to the business. It's called contributed capital. It's equity. I have more, right? So what do? Credit it. That's how I increase equity. And you know that, huh? But get so you know it really, really well. And when you come into the quiz, take a blank sheet of paper, right, while I'm handing out the quiz or something, and write down that accounting equation and debit equals credit, okay? You can do it for the second quiz. You can do it for the test. After that, you'll know it so well, it'll be like writing your name down or something. Why would I do that to remember? Got it? You're going to know it that well. I can't remember when I learned this debit credit stuff. The first time I thought it was hilarious. I walked in and told the students and thought they'd know it. I told them, right? It doesn't work that way, you guys. You have to get this ingrained. So it just comes automatically. If I told you that a company purchased a building for $200,000 and they made a 20% down payment and paid the rest in cash, could you do that journal entry right now? The answer is yes. You have to think about it a little bit, right? Okay. And we'll do that in a second. Okay, it's just not a big deal. So is there a big long list of journal entries in this quiz? Yes, but they're just like the homework, and they're just what we just covered. And if you let yourself think about it, you can figure each one of them out really easily. Okay? You figure everything out. You don't remember anything except what? Debits are on the left, because otherwise how we just have to memorize that. And no, you don't have to memorize that. It's common sense. Come on. Don't waste your memory life. No, it's okay. That's fine. Okay, and then what else? What else do you have to have? One other thing. Well, you have to do the accounting equation. You just don't memorize it. What do you have to do? Remember what about the accounting equation? Assets are on the left, right? So you know they're debits. And then obviously your assets have to equal your liabilities plus your equity, because it's true. All your assets, either you're still paying for them liabilities or you own them equity. Come on. Right? Let it be common sense. Stop memorizing. I just caught a whole bunch of you on that, didn't I? Oh, I can memorize the accounting equation? No, you don't. It's Common sense. Got it? Let it get to be common sense for you. And I know at first, I don't know. At first, I suppose my grandson is memorizing how to spell. But I don't know, not anymore. He's 7. He can sound words out now. Unless there's some screwy spelling that the English language has thousands of, right? He can spell anything. I can read anything. He's 7. So could you. Right? Start doing it again, okay? It's thinking. It's not memorizing, right? It's thinking, not memorizing. Okay, anyway, so that'd be contributed capital. All right, great. That 100,000 would be in here. What would you say our total equity is? 100,000. Okay? And by the way, you can retire stock, but we'll do that much later. Okay? For now, we'll just put it in. Okay, companies do that sometimes. All right, anyway, now we earn, let's say we earn, our net income is $40,000. Okay? Let's say our revenues less our expenses are $40,000. What do you think will happen to retained earnings if you earn $40,000? I think it might go up. What do you think? So what are we going to do with the net income? We are going to add it to retained earnings with a credit. Why is it a credit if it's net income? Because net income's a credit. Revenues exceed expenses. I have more equity. You credit equity, you increase it. Yeah, it always works. Okay, it's cool. Simple. All right, what if it's a net loss instead? Let's say we didn't have net income. What if you have a net loss? Let's say we had a 10 net loss instead. Everybody got the idea? That would be a debit, right? Because your expenses exceeded your revenues. If you have a 10 loss, what do you do? You're going to debit retained earnings. So let's say the first year was 40 income and the second year was 10 loss. What do you think your retained earnings is now? You know, if you earn 40, you start with nothing, you earn 40, and then you lose 10. What do you have? 30. Got it? Now, is retained earnings the same thing as cash? No. Is contributed capital the same thing as cash? No. Are assets the same thing as liabilities or equity? No. So don't get the idea that everything's cash, right? That screws people up too. Start going crazy, right? Okay. You can exchange assets for assets, liabilities for liabilities, equity for equity. I can even come up with something where you exchange revenues and expenses. You can certainly exchange assets for liabilities, for equity, for revenues, or for expenses, or any of the accounts for any of the accounts. Got it? So what you have to do is understand the transaction and do the debits and credits, huh? And this is going to be simple, right? The reason I'm quite so emphatic about this stuff is because I know some of you guys haven't started doing it yet. Those of you who are doing it are looking really worried, and that's fine, except just relax. You don't need to look worried because you're going to nail this. You're going to have it. And if you don't have everything on this quiz, who cares? It's almost none of your grade, right? You get to throw one away. Relax, okay? If you're working really hard, do not be nervous. If you're doing nothing, we'll see you next semester. Okay? That's the drill, right? What are you doing in your other classes so far? Nothing. If somebody have scoliosis, then you are. Somebody have Welliver, then you are. Maybe you have to let Gatton, anybody? Maybe that. Maybe you know him. Yeah. You worked a little, and you learned a hell of a lot, didn't you? Yeah, it's amazing how that works. You know what? You guys don't learn from us. You learn because we make you work hard. It's true, and no, he's really good. You learn from him. I figure that. Okay, anyway. So we won't do a journal entry for that yet, but later we will, okay? Everybody got the idea? Let's do a dividend. What if we decide to give a cash dividend? That means I'm giving cash. Now, I've got the $30,000 in there. We're the second year now, right? Okay? We got the $30,000 in there. And I decide to pay a $8,000 dividend to the shareholders in cash. What is going to happen to retained earnings if you pay out a dividend? And it's not paying it, it's declaring it, actually. Promising it to us. What would we do? It's got to be a decrease in equity, right? Decrease in retained earnings. How would you decrease retained earnings, you guys? It's an equity account. Increase it with a equity account. Increase it with a credit because it is on the right. It seems silly as things get complex to do that, but that's it, right? It's a man-made little model, okay? So if you are going to reduce retained earnings, increase it with a credit, what do you reduce it with? Debit, of course. So the dividends would go here. So if I did 8 dividends, how much do you think you'd have left in retained earnings? You know, if you made 41 year, lost 10 the next, so you're 30, and now you pay out 8 to the owners. What do you think is going to happen? I think you'd have 32. Getting the idea? We just keep track of where we're at. So if you look at a company's retained earnings on their balance sheet that's been in business for 100 years, you will see the sum total of all their net incomes for all the years they've been in business, less all their losses, less all their dividends. Got it? Everybody understand? Now it's easy. Yes. Oh, it's 22. Oh, 30? Yeah, okay. Nobody wanted to say anything about that? I didn't say I could add. I'm an accountant. I use calculators. Yeah. Okay, sorry. 22. Did anybody else notice that? So what's wrong with you people? When you're boss in this situation, I'm your boss. I like being the boss in this situation because you pay me to be your boss. It's kind of screwed up, isn't it? But it's true, right? But I'm going to evaluate your performance, right? You get the evaluation plan too. You write the evaluation. You already hate me, then. She's going to be one of those who's just worst teacher I ever had. Thanks. Okay, I can tell already. Okay, no, anyway. I hope. Okay, anyway. Hope there's somebody worse than me. Got to be out there somewhere. What you need to do, guys, when your boss makes a mistake, first, you're sure. I'm not really sure, but sort of sure. And then you say, I think that's a different number. She didn't even do that because she knows me. She just said, Keith, it's 22, for God's sake. You know, you implied, for God's sake. Right? If we'd been by ourselves, she would have said, double check. Right? So 22. Yeah, and that's what you do at work. When you really get to know your boss well, you're like, oh, for crying out loud, geez. They pay you the big bucks for that. Yeah, it's this number. Yeah, you fix it. Okay? At first it's, I don't think that's the right number. I think it's this one. Look and say, oh yeah, thanks. So you guys just left me hanging. You would have let me put it in this little video thing and leave it for eternity, wouldn't you? What's wrong with you people? What kind of employees are you? Okay, you're going to keep your boss from screwing up. It's really hard to do if I were your boss. Okay, anyway. So you want to do some transactions? You want to do, what we could do is we could do the last problem on the quiz. Want to do that? I mean, it doesn't matter which questions we do. We can do problems in the book. I really don't care. Somebody emailed me and said, I'm actually going to go over the quiz in class, or the homework in class, and the answer is only if you ask me to. I'll go over any homework problem you want whenever you want. You can do it in review sessions, I don't care. You can call me up. The answers are in Moodle, right? You can go look them up. Don't look them up before you do the problems. Don't look them up while you do the problems. I am not going to give you the answers to the quiz while you do the quiz, okay? So when you're doing your homework, obviously, don't go look it up. But after you do it, would it be a good idea to go look up what the answer was to make sure you did it right? Yeah, I think that's really good idea. Okay? And then if you can't figure it out, get hold of me, right? Or when you come to class, say, hey, Keith, do this one, okay? Right? I don't understand this particular transaction. Okay, anyway, so let's do the last one on there, number 9. Is it? Yeah, let's do 9. And if we have time, we'll get to 10. Huh? Okay, everybody has the, oh, come on. What do I have set wrong? Somebody who is an expert in this, tell me. Something doesn't want to work. Sometimes if you move the pen around, you get it confused, like I must have done. Now, give me another page. Nothing's working.
Clicking the mouse there.
I am using the mouse.
On the left.
Oh, click the mouse up above. Where's the mouse? It's just like
it's like on our screen.
it's probably behind something. The mouse is no.
It's on the far left.
Far left.
Look on the
Along this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
That makes it right click.
Do a right click instead?
No, that makes it right click. The mouse up at the top of that bar.
No, I'm not doing that. Oh, crap. Way to go. Isn't technology wonderful? Okay. Now it's dying. Go away. All right, there we go. All right. I have a tried and true way. Look at that. This will be on one page the whole day. Sometimes it happens. You'll have to show me it. Did I just hit it wrong somehow?
The mouse up at the top of the bar. Pointer. The pointer, yeah.
Oh, this? Oh, that one. have some setting wrong somewhere. Now I probably don't have a pen anymore. Nope. Usually everything just works really well. There it goes. Yeah, I don't know. And that refuses to work. I've never had that happen before. It's been a couple of years using it. All right. Okay. Anyway, let's do number 9. So what's going on here? We got assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, expenses, and we're increasing and decreasing them, right? That's it. That's all we're going to do. It's just debits and credits. So the first one says owners borrowed $4,000 cash to start the business. You want to do it? What is that? What the company get? Not you, the young woman behind you. I'm kidding. Well, I'm not kidding, but yeah, go ahead. Okay, they got contributed capital, right? They have more contributed capital, and they received what the owners give them. Okay. You don't have a copy of that? How many of you have a copy of this quiz sitting in front of you? Holy cow. Do you have the ability to get electronically right now, right this minute? How many have that? Why would you not do that if you could? And why would you not have one? Wow. That's not going to work out very well. Oh, well. I'll read it to you again. Okay, here we go again. Okay. Owners borrowed, whoops, it wasn't invested, so it's not contributed capital. That was wrong. I can't read. Owners borrowed $4,000 cash to start the business. What did the business get? They have a liability. Now that's true. They incurred a liability. And what did they get for their promise to pay later, the liability? Cash. Okay. Cash is there are assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, expense. That's all there is. An asset, absolutely. Possession, asset, it's yours, okay? Asset. So you got more asset, don't you? How do you increase assets? All of them. There's no left, yeah. So do you want to debit cash for $4,000? You do, don't you? Okay? So A. Why is he picking on me? It's because you were paying attention. Yeah, isn't that good? Don't ever pay attention to class, so follow me. I'm kidding. Okay. Debit cash. Credit what? You said you owe them. Well, you'd probably do. It's going to be a liability. What do you want to name it? Probably not accounts payable because that's open accounts. That's a good idea. Put the word payable on. Open account would mean you didn't sign anything. If you went and borrowed money, what do you use that? Somebody had you sign a note for it, right? So what would we call it if it's a note and it's payable? How about note payable? Okay, and it's a liability, and we have more, right, guys? So what do? How do you increase the liability? With a credit, because they're on the right. Okay, notes payable. You're good sport. I'll be meaner later, okay? Okay. All right, anyway. Got it? So did we just increase our assets and just increase our liabilities? Of course we did. Okay? Let's do B. Get with the hat on there. You're paying attention when you do that. You have it sitting in front of you, or do I have to read it to you too?
No, I'm sitting in front of me.
Okay, go.
Would you debit the land worth $10,000?
You mean because you got land, you want to debit it? Well, that'd be a good idea. It's an asset. He wants to debit it to increase it. How many people on board with that one? This is too easy, isn't it? I got land. It's an asset. 10,000 of it. I have more. I debit it. Yes. Yeah. So now I have 4,000 plus 10,000 in assets, don't I, guys? Don't I? I have cash and I have land, and I put them on my balance sheet now, and people can see what I have. So we report where I'm at. That's what we call them, reports. Financial statements. Okay? What do you want to credit? You got to credit something. Debits have to equal credits.
Stock.
Oh, so contributed capital really would be common stock, right? Well, we can use contributed capital for now. Okay? 10,000. And then there might be some additional paid-in capital, common stock too, or it might be preferred stock. Anyway, we'll get that stuff later. All right, everybody got it? So what have I done? I've increased my assets by 14. I've increased my liabilities by 4, and I've increased my contributed capital by 10. My equity. Is there anybody that's not with me? This is going to be easy, isn't it? There's nothing to it. Okay? C. Purchased equipment for $900, pay $100 down. You want to do that one? Pay the $100 down, and I guess I sign a note for the rest, it says.
You get supplies and that's
Well, it's not supplies, it's equipment. It's not little small tools that I'm going to use up in the current year. It's equipment I'm going to use for a while, or we would call it equipment. We call it supplies otherwise. Right? Okay, so I bought equipment. So what am I going to call equipment that I bought? It's an asset. I'll probably name it equipment. What do you guys think? Huh? Or some kind of equipment, whatever it is, office equipment or delivery equipment, something. Okay, and what kind of account is that going to be?
it's going to be a debit.
Because it is a, no, there's no gain or loss. That's on the income statement. It's an asset, yeah. You have more of the asset, yeah. You got more of the asset, right? Okay, so you have more of the asset, so you want to increase it with a debit. She's right, okay? And you want to call it equipment, don't you? Is this any, how much was it, 900?
Yes.
Is that any different than the debit to cash, the debit to land? No, it's just a different account. It's the same thing over and over. How many assets are there in the world? Billions. You can now account for all of them. As soon as you know something's an asset and you have more of it, debit it. What do you have less of one? Credit. That's it, huh? You got it made. Okay? All right, and what do we give them? 100 of what? Cash, which is a asset, and you have less. What do you want to do to it? Credit it. Yeah. Look at that. I had 4,000 cash, right? And I just gave him 100. What do you think I have left now? Maybe 3,900? Huh? Started with nothing. I borrowed $4,000, so now I have 4,000 in my bank account. I paid out a check for $100. How much do you think we have right now? 3,900. Even I could do this. Okay? Hard to believe it pays well, huh? To know this stuff. Okay? It does. That's because people refuse to learn it. Purchase supplies for 300 on account. You want to do this one? Yes, sir.
Don't,
Oh, I didn't finish it.
yeah.
Oh, you want to finish it? You want debits equal credits? Thank you, sir. Good man. See, that was confidence, right? Didn't even take him long. Jumped right in there. I did that on purpose. No, I didn't. I forgot to do it. Okay? All right? I could pretend I did it on purpose. Most professors do that all the time, right? Oh, I was just testing. You want to finish it then?
Would that be notes?
I think so. You borrowed it. I bet they'd have you sign a note. In fact, you even said that, didn't it? So notes payable. It's a different note than the first one. You know, you put somebody's name on it or something. Or you can put it in the same account and just keep track of the notes separately. That'd be fine. Okay, got the idea? So now I have notes payable of 4,800, I guess, don't I? You know, you put 4,000 in and then you put 800 in. You're making this happen. You're creating financial statements here, you guys. Thank you very much, sir. Okay. So, how about purchase supplies for 300 on account? You want to do that one? Whose hat is that you're wearing? What team is that? Philadelphia. They're losers. It's like the Ducks. You guys know I went to Oregon, right? I'm an Oregon fan. Those losers. My grandkids bought me I have all the clothes I own pretty much. I guess I don't have anything on today. I might have socks on that are Duck though. But anyway, yeah, all my clothes are Duck and I have to wear those losers' clothes around. You know what's really great about our society? There's only one winner and everybody else in our society is a loser. How did we ever evolve into that? You guys are all losers because you're not the richest person in the world. Right? I guess all the rest of us are losers. We might as well get used to it. That's strange concept. Okay. You want to do D? Sir?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Even though, wear that hat.
It's everybody.
One day a baseball cap, now a stocking cap, nothing but disrespect. You go ahead, it's all right. Yeah, anyway, do the problem. You know I'm kidding, right, you guys? Okay, anyway.
Purchase supplies of $300 for on account.
All right, what does that mean?
Debit 300.
To what? To supplies. And don't just call it supplies, okay, guys? I know the author does. But supplies might be supplies expense, supplies revenue, maybe even supplies payable. Yeah, so be careful with that. Call it supplies inventory, okay? Put the word inventory up and make a note to yourself for that. Please put the word inventory up, okay? So I know you know that it's an asset. Inventory would tell you it's an asset. It's supplies I have. Supplies expense are supplies I've used up, okay? Supplies inventory, how much?
300.
You want to credit something for 300? I think you probably do. What would it be? How'd you buy it? No, you didn't. You just read it to me. Come on, man.
On account.
On account. What does that mean? I bought it on open account, and they are going to let me pay for it later. And it's payable, and it's on account. Give me a good name for that. You had it earlier, didn't you? What is that?
No payable.
Not note. I won't sign a note for this. It's only $300 and they're just going to trust me. Account payable, accounts payable. So now you guys know what accounts payable are. Guess what an account receivable is? Account payable is when I owe to somebody. What's an account receivable? Something somebody owes to me. Do you think that's a liability? I don't. What do you think it is? An asset. Somebody owed me $100,000 and they're going to pay me tomorrow and I do it for sure. You think I got an asset? Yeah, I can take that $100,000 note to the bank and get most of it, right, from the bank. It's low risk because there's very little time. They have to wait for the money, right? No kidding. It's called discounting the note receivable. We'll worry about that. Or account receivable. We'll worry about that later. Cool. So you have more inventory and more liability. See how we're exchanging things here? Okay, different transactions. In this first one, I received an asset and incurred a liability, right, in A. In B, I received an asset and increased my equity, right? In C, I received an asset, the equipment, I gave them another asset, cash, and I signed a note payable, so I have more liability. Everybody got it? In D, I received an asset and I incurred a liability. We can do anything here, okay? All right. In E, all of a sudden I'm into chapter 3 and 4. Mean. All right. Delivered flowers to customers totaling $800. $600 was paid for the flower when the flowers were delivered, and the remainder will be paid later this month. Oh no! What are we going to do with this? Okay, the flowers are delivered to me. This is my merchandise inventory, right? Merchandise in my store. Ever heard the term merchandise? What I'm holding, merchandise inventory, the inventory in my store I'm going to sell. This is the florist. Their flowers are merchandise inventory for them, right? Not supplies inventory, merchandise inventory, right? When we cease to have the inventory, we are going to call it cost of goods sold, which is a really clever name for the major expense that I have of selling flowers, right? What do you think the most expensive thing the florist has to buy in order to sell you flowers? How about flowers, right? They have to buy the flowers. So their cost of goods sold is going to be the flowers they give you. Well, what is it to them until they give it to you? It's an asset. They got a store full of flowers, right? You ever seen that, I think it's FedEx, that FedEx commercial where the store is completely empty and it's about time to open the store? You know, the clock's going by, it's just almost time to open it. And the FedEx truck shows up and suddenly the store is full of flowers. They just bought their inventory, right? And then what do they want to have at the end of the day if you're a florist? Nothing left if you can, right? Clear it out. Why? Because flowers deteriorate very rapidly, right? In and back out. So FedEx's deal was, you know, we'll deliver for today. We'll always be there on time. Blah blah blah. Right? That's the end. Okay. All right. So let's do this. These are two things happen. Two things happen. Somebody tell me what we would do when the flowers were delivered. Somebody want to give that a shot? Yes. Yeah. Flower inventory. You like that? It'd probably be merchandise inventory. But you know what? They can call it flower inventory if they want. It's okay with me. I don't care. This is really flexible. Get the word inventory on it. You got to pay it. That's an asset, isn't it? How much would that be? No, it's not. You're doing so well. What are they going to pay for the flowers? $600. Okay. And they paid for it when they were delivered, so what'd they give them? They paid for it. What do you pay for things with? Yeah, I do too. Okay, cash, right? I know your credit card, but that's your dad's cash. Okay, but anyway, yeah, okay, anyway, so yeah, cash. All right. If it's a debit card, it is cash. It's a credit card. Your dad borrowed the money. Yeah, there we go. Okay, anyway. All right. You do have your dad's credit card, don't you? He loves you? Not that much. You have your own? You have your mom's? You have your own. Did they co-sign? Yeah, you have his. Okay, anyway, all right. We talked about interest last time, did we? If you were to go get a credit card, and I were to go get a credit card, yeah. What's your rate on your credit card? You don't even know, do you? Yeah, it's 5% probably. Because your parents probably have good credit, or you wouldn't be sitting there. Okay, got it. Okay. If you went and got a credit card, it'd be 24%. Why'd they co-sign for you? Because they don't want to pay 24% on your credit card. Yeah.
Since it's delivering flowers to customers,
Yes.
wouldn't the company be receiving cash instead?
We're not receiving any cash. We sold it. We delivered them Oh, it just says we delivered them, it didn't say we got paid.
The delivered flowers, 600 was paid when the flowers were delivered.
Oh, I'm doing this wrong, aren't I? Oh, no, well, I screwed the problem up. It was such a good problem, and I was mean to you. All right, we'll do it this way, and then I'll expand it. Jeez, Keith. That was such a good time. Okay, anyway, so go ahead. What did they do? They delivered flowers, and what did they get? Cash. That's what you said, wasn't it? You were right. Debit cash, 600. Okay. And then what else did you want to do? Well, who owes the money? No, not the business. We sold flowers for how much? 800. And they paid us cash at 200, and they are going to pay us. Who has the liability? Our customer does. So what do we have? It's an open account, but it's not payable. It is receivable. Good. Okay. And so it's an asset, right? The hard thing is, who am I, right? Which side of the deal am I? Especially if your professor can't read his own problems. Okay, so debit, accounts receivable. Why am I debiting it? It's an asset, and you have more, right? They're going to give you $200 later. Everybody agree with that? Okay, and what would you credit for $800? What do we have, you guys? Well, this isn't the cost of goods sold. This is the sale. So, because we're going to have assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, expense, right? We're going to get the net income. What we're doing here is the revenue, right? The sale is 800. So what do we want to call a sale, cleverly? How about sales? You like that? But what kind of an account is it? So we'll use this word for now. All companies don't. They might be called sales, but they know what kind of account it is. What is it? Oh, I got cash. I got accounts receivable. What's sales? My equity went up because I sold product. I sold product, 800. I have more net income by 800, which means I have more retained earnings by 800. You guys agree? It's true, isn't it? So what do? How do you record revenues, everybody? How do you record them? Not to retained earnings, to revenue first, and then later it'll end up in retained earnings. So what do I go to? An account named what? Sales revenue. So I'm going to increase that revenue account. Okay? Got it? What am I going to do, by the way, when they pay me that $200?
You're going to change the account receivable to cash?
I would change it to it. How would I do that?
Another journal entry?
Credit accounts receivable because it's gone, right? They don't owe it to me anymore. I don't have that asset. And debit what? Cash. Everything's a journal entry, okay? And you're right, it changes it. But we do a journal entry to do it, okay? All right, cool. Let's say, yes, ma'am.
Can you show that? Like how you do
Oh, for crying out loud, are you kidding me?
It's about to show up in the next one.
Is in the next question. Just like that. So if they paid me this, I debit cash because they paid it to me. I have more cash, right? And I have less accounts receivable because they paid me. They don't owe it to me anymore. Got it? It's there, okay? Always ask, always ask, always ask. Is there such a thing as a stupid question? Yes, the one you didn't ask. It's how you did yourself in. If you're at work and you don't know how to do something, what should you do? Ask. What if you ask me the same question twice? Good for you. What if you ask me 3 times? You work somewhere else. First time you probably don't understand the answer. Second time, I would hope you would because you're asking the second time. Third time, you're wasting my time. Got it? I used to make long lists. When I was a financial vice president, I got to see the president every other day. Maybe he'd show up. Our offices were right next to each other. It's land development. He'd show up every other day. He was working. Trust me. Guy worked all the time. He was out doing something, right? Developing, plan. Yeah. Anyway, that's what we did. Anyway, and so I would have those legal pads, yellow legal pads. I had 3 or 4 pages full of questions when I saw him every other day. Everything I was working on. So he only had to answer my questions once. Just drives me nuts. We'd sit down in his gorgeous office. It was on a lake because we were a land developer, right? So our offices were on this lake. It was really great. We'd sit in his office. If it was really nice weather, we'd sit out on the deck outside his office and we'd drink beer. because we had a refrigerator with good beer in it. We had money, right? You know, and so we'd sit and drink a beer, and I'd ask him a whole long list of questions from about 7 o'clock at night until 9, so it wasn't that wonderful. What was really sad about it was across the lake was this building we'd also built. It was a really nice restaurant bar, and people were out there having a really good time and laughing and drinking and eating really good food. And I was sitting there asking him questions. Oh, that's right. He paid me really, really well for that. Yeah, really well. That was pretty funny. He gave me a car allowance that was, I don't know. It was $500 a month. Now that would be probably $2,000 a month. He thought I would take it. And I says, can I have a 2-seater? Do I have to haul clients? That's what it was. And he says, well, you're going he thought I was going to buy a 2-seat Porsche or something, you know. And so I went and bought a Volkswagen Rabbit. And I paid for it in 3 months. I, paid for the thing. And so he saw it. When he saw it, he says, I thought you were going to buy a car. Why did you buy that thing? And I says, because I'm going to pay for it really fast. And he says, and then what are you going to do with your car allowance? And I says, I am going to keep it. Because you are still going to pay it. You paid a lot for that car. Yeah, he just laughed. He said, all right, whatever. He drove around in a stretch Mercedes, but yeah. When I left that job, I told him, he says, I can't believe how much would I have to pay you for your stay, because I was going back into teaching, between teaching gigs. And he says, how much would I have to pay you, right, for you to have stayed, for crying out loud? What's wrong with you? And I says, I guess I never wanted to be rich and famous. And he says, who wants to be famous? Yeah, we know where his head was. Okay, anyway, good. So let's do one more thing with this. Let's say that we had bought those flowers for $550. That's what I was trying to do before. Let's say it said that in the problem. So it makes some sense to you what I was trying to do before. This is not in the problem, right? If I bought them for $550, let's say I'll pay cash when I buy it. What do you think you would have done when you buy it for $550? I buy these flowers that I'm now selling. Okay? So what would you do? Credit cash for the $550, right? You guys are getting good at this already, aren't you? Debit what for $550? Flower inventory, okay, or inventory in general, merchandise inventory. So flower inventory or merchandise inventory. Everybody agree? What kind of account is merchandise inventory? It's an asset. So now I have $550 of flowers, right? Okay, and now let's say that I sell, but we'll sell all of them. Let's sell the whole $550 for $800. If I sold it for cash of $600, we'd do that, right? We do the account receivable for $200, and we record the sales revenue for $800. But what is the major cost of getting that sales revenue? It's going to be cost of goods sold, which is the cost of the... Yeah, I sold flowers. Okay, so I've got this asset in my inventory, and now my customer takes it and walks out the door with it. Got it? Or a bunch of customers. What happens? I don't have it anymore. If you don't have an asset anymore, what will you do to it? Reduce it with a credit. That's all there is to it, you guys. Isn't that cool? And the whole world refuses to learn this, so you're going to be valuable. There's nothing on. Yeah, I debit it, increase it. When it leaves, I credit it. So the key thing is, do you know what happened? If you don't know what happened, you cannot account for it. If you do know what happened, you can account for it. And if you do know what is happening in the business, you get to run the business. Got it? This is a quick avenue to get yourself in a position of management, huh? Because you know what's going on. Of course they want you. Yes, sir.
So if you would be gaining $550 in merchandise inventory, does that mean that you would be losing $550 on the liability side?
No, there's no liability involved in this at all. What happened was I got an asset, $550, and I gave up cash. What if I had incurred a liability instead? Let's say I was going to buy it on account. It'd be debit, merchandise inventory, and credit accounts payable. Then I'd have more liability. But later I'd have to pay it anyway, which would be debit accounts payable, reducing it, and credit cash, reducing that at the point I pay it. Here I just paid cash. But I think what your real question is, well, what does that merchandise inventory become? If it's gone, what is it? I used up an asset and it became a what? The assets I use up are now gone, and I use them up in an effort to generate revenues. And in this case, I did generate revenues. I generated $800 of revenues by giving up that inventory of $550, didn't I? Ah, so what is it? It's a major what that I have? It's going to be a major expense, which is going to reduce my net income, right? And what are we going to call this expense? How about cost of goods sold? Now, if I debit cost of goods sold, you don't have to write the word expense on it, but for now, we will, just so you remember it's an expense, right? It's the only one that doesn't have the word expense on it. All other expenses typically do, right? Cost of goods sold, we know it's an expense, okay? By the way, this is pretty easy. If you want something to be a liability, put the word payable on it. Add payable. If you want something to be an expense, put the word expense on it. If you want something to be a revenue, put the word revenue on it. Students always ask me, how do I name these accounts? Call it what it is. That's it. How do I know what to call it? What is it? And it's real flexible for companies. They call them whatever they want. But we always use the word revenue for revenue, huh? Always use the word expense for expense. Always use the word payable for liabilities, okay? Pretty much. Not always, but pretty much, okay? And then assets, we just call it what it is. Okay, got the idea? And equity, there's only a few accounts. So this is going to be pretty simple. So you don't have to memorize the names of a whole bunch of accounts. It's silly. Right? We make them up anyways. We go. It's really fun when you work as a CPA. People say, well, how do you know what the name of that account is? I just created it. What do you mean now I know the name of it? You just put it in your general ledger. Because when you need to use it. Wow. Really? You want to call it something else? Be fine with me. As long as we can all tell what it is. So companies tend to use the same names as each other, so you know what's going on, right? That's it. Okay, good. All right, let's see what else we have here. So that's not in the problem, right, guys? And then it says, we purchased supplies, delivered flowers, paid $500 of the note plus 8 interest. Okay, that was kind of fun. On F, we paid $500 of the note. What was the note payable? Was that the $800 note payable, I think? Yeah. Right, it's one of them anyway. Okay, so it's not from D anyway. That was stock there, typo. Okay, anyway, they paid $500 plus 8 interest. What did they pay out? Probably cash, which is a asset, and you have less. What do you want to do? Yeah, credit cash. 508, right? All right. What do you think? What happened to the note? You paid off 500. What happened to it? It went down by 500. How would you reduce a liability named notes payable if you paid it? Debit. Ah, this is not hard, is it? And what else do we have then? Yeah, it's interest, and if we have not recorded it yet, this is the cost of borrowing the money, and then we use the money maybe to buy assets, right? And then we use those assets to generate revenues. So this is the cost of generating our revenues. So what are the costs called? All the costs to generate revenues, what do we call them? In this case, it's interest, so we call it interest what? Expense. Okay. Everybody got it? Don't just write down interest because I don't know what that is. Let me show you what you could do for interest. You could have interest expense if I'm incurring the cost. You could have interest revenue if I loan money out and I'm earning it. You could have interest payable if I incurred the cost but haven't paid it yet. That's a liability. I got an expense, a revenue, a liability. I could have interest receivable if I earned interest but they haven't paid me yet. I could have prepaid interest if I paid interest in advance that is going to be an expense later. And I could have unearned interest. Don't worry about these for now. We're just making the point. I could have unearned interest, which is a liability. They paid me the interest in advance. Wow. So what does interest mean, you guys? I don't know. It's one of those. What does just expense mean? I don't know. It's one of the billions of expenses you could have. 2 words will do it. You got it? Rent expense, salary expense, interest expense, whatever. See you guys. Study, 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 study. Didn't even finish the problem. So we'll do it in review.